Welcome, dear listener, to the Upper Room channel. I am genuinely thrilled, really excited to be here with you today as we launch into our very first deep dive together.
It's great to be starting this.
It really is. What an incredible journey we're about to embark on. Today, we're not just scratching the surface, we are plunging deep into one of the most foundational, most profound texts humanity has ever known, Genesis chapter 1.
Absolutely foundational.
It is. I mean, it's a text whose impact is truly immeasurable, shaping philosophy, theology, art for millennia. And its relevance, well, it just keeps echoing in our modern world, doesn't it? Resonating deeply in our own lives today.
It really does. It's a source of wonder, yeah, but also challenge and ultimately incredible insight. And, Genesis chapter 1 is far more than just an ancient manuscript or some historical artifact you study from a distance.
Right.
It feels like a living, breathing source of wisdom, inspiration, and, as we'll definitely get into, even vibrant debate that's unfolded across centuries.
Yeah.
It doesn't just invite us. It sort of compels us, really, to think about the big questions, doesn't it? Existence, purpose, our place, our unique place in this huge, intricate cosmos.
It sets the stage for
It
everything.
really does. For so much of human thought and spiritual understanding.
And speaking of profound reflection and artistry, if you've been following the Upper Room channel, maybe just for the last few days even, you'll know we recently released our Song of Creation.
Ah, yes, beautiful piece.
It really is, and it was designed to capture the very spirit of what we're exploring today. That song, it serves as a beautiful kind of poetic entry point into many of the themes we're about to unpack.
Like how it speaks of order coming from chaos.
Exactly, or the goodness proclaimed in every act of creation. It's quite remarkable, actually, how a single chapter can inspire such deep reflection in art like that, bridging faith and art so seamlessly.
It truly is.
Okay, so let's talk about our mission today on the deep dive. What are we aiming for?
Good question.
Well, our goal is clear. We want to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights from our sources on Genesis 1, and really tailor it for you, the learner. We're going to carefully navigate its incredible narrative, really delve into the core Catholic teachings that come from it, and then thoughtfully explore the fascinating, sometimes subtle, but always rich debates around how it's interpreted within Catholic thought.
Precisely. And let's be clear, right? Our aim isn't just to give a quick summary or skim the surface.
No, definitely not.
We want to help you, our listener, truly get what is most important to this ancient text, and maybe even more importantly, why it matters for your own understanding, faith, science, life itself.
Right. The why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll provide the context, look at different perspectives for a balanced view, and hopefully spark some of those real aha moments, where information clicks into actual insight.
Love those moments.
Me too. Think of this deep dive as maybe your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed on this absolutely foundational topic.
Yeah.
Equipping you with knowledge that goes way beyond the surface level.
Okay. I'm ready. Let's dive in. Where do we start?
Well, where else? At the beginning.
Let's begin, as the text itself does at the very beginning, with those iconic, solemn, just utterly foundational words that open the entire Bible. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth.
Oh, right there.
What an immediate, powerful impact those words have. They instantly set this tone of immense gravity, universal significance, don't they?
Absolutely. It's not just a beginning, like you said, but the beginning of everything. And those words immediately establish a core, non-negotiable theological truth. God is the singular, the sovereign, the ultimate creator.
Okay.
He brings everything into being. And that Latin phrase, ex nihilo.
Ex nihilo. From nothing, right?
Exactly. From nothing. That's absolutely key here. This isn't a story like you find in many other ancient creation myths where a god is just, shaping stuff that was already lying around, some primordial chaos or whatever.
Right, like sculpting pre-existing clay.
Precisely. Instead, Genesis makes this radical declaration. Before creation, there was literally nothing except God himself.
Wow, okay.
Which implies the universe isn't some cosmic accident or the result of warring forces, but the deliberate, intentional, loving work of God.
That intentionality seems huge.
It is. And it also speaks volumes about God's eternal nature. He has no beginning or end existing outside of time, yet he chooses, in his wisdom and love, to bring time, space, all of creation into existence.
Like Psalm 90 says, from everlasting to everlasting you are God.
Beautifully put. That's exactly it. It elevates creation from just an event to a profound act of divine will and love.
It's incredible, though, to think that even in these very first verses, we find such deep theological layers. You mentioned hints of the Trinity earlier. Well, yes, that's how many read it, looking back through Christian tradition.
Okay, tell me more. We hear about the Spirit of God hovering over the waters,
Mm.
and then later, that really interesting phrase, let us make human beings in our image after our likeness. How do theologians unpack that us and the Spirit hovering so early on?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it really highlights the depth here. Now, obviously, the full doctrine of the Trinity wasn't revealed until much later with Christ,
Sure.
but the early church fathers, looking back, often saw these passages as prefigurements or foreshadowings, hints.
Okay, like little breadcrumbs.
Sort of. When Genesis mentions the Spirit of God hovering, many interpreters, right from the early centuries, saw that as the Holy Spirit actively involved, breathing life and order into creation,
Right.
and that plural, us, in let us make. That's been widely interpreted, even by some ancient Jewish commentators, and definitely by Christians, as suggesting a divine council within the Godhead.
So Father, Son, Holy Spirit working together. An intimation of that, yes. A glimpse into the internal life of God, that divine unity and plurality right at the dawn of creation in the text. It's subtle but powerful.
That really changes how you read that opening.
It does. And it leads us to a crucial point about Genesis 1 itself. As many scholars and even youth ministry resources point out, this narrative isn't trying to be a science textbook.
Right, not a geology report.
Definitely not. It's structured much more like a beautiful hymn or a poem. It's bringing order out of chaos, conveying deep theological truths using evocative language, recurring patterns.
Like a song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Its main goal is to reveal who God is, his power, his goodness, his intention, and who we are in relation to him in creation. It's not about the how in a scientific sense.
That's such a vital distinction. It frees up the text, in a way. And that hymn-like quality, that poetic structure you mentioned, it's really driven home by that repeated line, isn't it? God saw that it was good.
Mm-hmm. Over and over.
And then, after humankind, it ramps up. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed, it was very good. That feels like more than just, yep, looks okay. What's the significance of that constant affirmation?
Oh, it's hugely significant. That refrain, God saw that it was good, acts like the chorus in this creation hymn, like you said. And very good, after humans, is the grand crescendo.
Okay.
It signals, without any doubt, God's absolute intentionality, his immense love, and the inherent goodness of everything he made. Nothing God creates is inherently evil or flawed. Everything carries his signature of goodness.
That has big implications.
Huge.
Yeah.
If creation is fundamentally good, then we're called to appreciate it, protect it, find God in it.
And you mentioned earlier this teaches us something about evil, too. How does that work if everything God made is good?
Right. That's a foundational understanding. Because God, who is pure goodness, created everything, evil can't be something he made.
Okay, so where does it come from?
Well, the classic understanding is that evil is a privation of the good.
A privation, like a lack of something.
Exactly. Think of darkness. Darkness isn't a thing itself, it's just the absence of light. Cold isn't a substance, it's the absence of heat.
Okay, I see.
Similarly, evil is understood as a lack, an absence, a twisting, or a corruption of the goodness God intended. It's not some equal power fighting God. It's more like a parasite that can only exist by latching onto and distorting something that is fundamentally good.
That's a helpful way to think about it. It protects God's goodness and the goodness of creation.
It does. And that song of creation we mentioned captures this beautifully. Lines like, every act of love he made, he named it good and blessed. The Maker smiled on all he formed and entered into rest.
Yeah.
It just wraps up that sense of wonder, divine love, and perfect order that Genesis 1 presents. There's just no room in that picture for a flawed or malevolent creator.
That analogy of light and darkness for evil as privation, really helpful. Okay, let's unpack this creation journey day by day. You described it as a structured, deliberate, divine work, like verses in a hymn. Let's walk through it.
Sounds good.
So, day 1, God speaks light into existence. Not the sun yet, just light. Separates it from darkness, names them day and night, establishes the cycle of time, right? The first ordering.
Exactly. And the theology there, light before the sun, is profound. It emphasizes God himself is the ultimate source of light, of truth. He's not just setting up cosmic machinery. It's a direct act of his power.
Okay, day 2. God creates a dome, the firmament, stretching it out to separate waters below from waters above, names it sky, another act of separation, creating distinct realms.
And deeply symbolic. In many ancient cosmologies, water represented chaos. So God dividing the waters, establishing boundaries, creating structured space. It demonstrates his mastery over chaos, his deliberate design.
Then day 3, God gathers the waters, reveals dry land, calls it earth, and then boom, life appears. He commands the earth to produce vegetation plants, fruit trees, each bearing fruit after its kind.
Yes, the earth becomes fertile, self-sustaining. And that phrase, after its kind, is really important. It suggests an inherent order, a stability within creation. God sets up natural laws, biological continuity. Each species has its own integrity, designed to reproduce within its bounds, points to intelligent design.
Day 4, now we get the celestial bodies. God makes the 2 great lights, sun for the day, moon for the night, and the stars. And crucially, not just for light, but to mark the seasons, the days, and the years.
And notice the order again. The function of light comes first, then the instruments to regulate it. The sun, moon, stars, they aren't gods to be worshipped like in pagan culture.
Yeah, Genesis demotes them almost.
Exactly. They're just creations, serving God's purpose for order and timekeeping. A huge theological statement against surrounding mythologies.
Day 5, the waters start teeming with life. God commands it. Seas filled with creatures, skies filled with birds, and he blesses them, tells them to multiply. Life bursts forth.
It's sheer generosity, isn't it? Abundance. God doesn't just make things, he blesses them. He gives them the power to reproduce, to flourish, to participate in the ongoing unfolding of life. It shows the life-giving power built into his design.
And then the climax, day 6. God makes the land animals, wild and tame, but the absolute highlight, the peak, is when God says, "Let us make human beings in our image, after our likeness."
That shift in language is so significant.
It really is. He creates male and female, blesses them, gives them dominion, provides plants for food. And after this, the final assessment, God saw that everything he made was very good. The ultimate stamp of approval, with humanity as the capstone.
Absolutely, the crescendo. That move from let there be to let us make signals something deeply personal, intimate, a divine counsel, a special act. And yes, that very good is reserved for the whole picture with humanity in it. It underscores our unique dignity and role.
And finally, day 7, as Genesis 2 mentions briefly, God rested. Not because he was tired, but...
Right. God doesn't get tired. It signifies his work was complete, perfect, finished, nothing lacking.
And he blessed that day, made it holy, establishing this rhythm of work and rest for everything that follows.
It's a profound pattern. And what's truly fascinating, if you step back and look at the whole week, is that structure, that symmetry we talked about.
The forming and the filling.
Exactly. Days 1 through 3, God forms the realms, light, darkness, sky, seas, land, vegetation. Then days 4 to 6, he fills those realms, sun, moon, stars, fish, birds, animals, humans.
Wow, I never saw it laid out quite like that.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It conveys such incredible order, purpose, intentionality. It's not random, it's deliberate design. It speaks volumes about a creator who is not just powerful, but wise, methodical, even artistic, like a grand symphony unfolding stage by stage.
That's a fantastic way to picture it. Okay, so that's the narrative, the symphony. Now, let's ground ourselves in what Catholic teaching says are the non-negotiables here. Regardless of how you read the days or the literary style, what are the core truths we must hold on to?
Excellent question. This is foundational for the learner. First, absolutely central. God exists, and he freely created the entire universe ex nihilo out of nothing.
Freely,
Yeah.
meaning he didn't have to.
Exactly. It was an act of sheer generosity, pure love, not cosmic necessity. His sovereignty is absolute.
Okay, first point. What's next?
Second, creation is inherently orderly, rich, diverse, and profoundly good. The Catechism says every creature possesses its own goodness and perfection.
So no mistakes, no inherent flaws in the original design.
Not its origin, no.
Yeah.
Everything reflects God's wisdom and goodness, which calls us to see the sacred everywhere, appreciate the interconnectedness.
Got it. Goodness of creation.
Third, and crucial for us, human beings, uniquely, are created in God's image and likeness. We possess an immortal, rational soul and inherent dignity.
Setting us apart.
Definitely. It gives us reason, free will, the capacity for love, for relationship with God. Our worth isn't earned, it's given.
Inherent dignity. Okay,
Fourth, the world is a gift entrusted to us. We're not owners, we're stewards. This demands respect for creation's order, its laws, responsibility.
Stewardship, not domination. We'll come back to that.
Yes. It implies a moral duty towards the environment, towards future generations. And fifth, finally, even though Genesis 1 doesn't detail it, the church holds as foundational that there was a primeval fall into sin.
Genesis 3 stuff.
Right. It acknowledges that human freedom was misused, introducing brokenness, suffering, death into the world God made very good. It explains the world we experience now without negating that original goodness.
Okay, so those five. God the free creator, ex nihilo, inherent goodness of creation, human dignity in God's image, stewardship, and the reality of the fall. These are the bedrock.
Absolutely. They frame everything else.
So what does this all mean for us, the listener? It means these aren't just, old stories or abstract ideas. They are the absolute foundation for understanding God, ourselves, the universe. Unchanging truths guiding Catholic teaching.
Precisely. And this leads to a really crucial point, one that often surprises people, especially the learner. The Catholic Church has never imposed a single, definitive, literal interpretation of Genesis 1.
Really? Never?
Never. This allows for, as the Church says, different understandings of how Genesis expresses these truths, as long as they stick within those non-negotiable doctrines we just outlined.
Wow.
And this openness, it beautifully reflects the Church's deep belief that faith and reason are ultimately harmonious. They aren't enemies.
Faith and reason working together.
Yes. True faith won't contradict true reason or true science because ultimately all truth comes from the same source, God.
That is a huge takeaway for the learner. Seriously. It means you don't have to feel like you're forced to choose between your faith and what science might be telling us about the age of the universe or, life's development.
Exactly.
The church actually encourages that wrestling, that exploration.
Oh, yeah.
It gives space for believers to engage thoughtfully with both scripture and science. Curiosity is valued, not shut down.
It's a sign of the Church's confidence, really, in both God's revelation and the human mind's capacity for truth.
And this isn't some new idea, you're saying. This openness has history.
Oh, absolutely. It's shaped by a long history of guidance from the magisterium, the Church's teaching authority. Take, for instance, way back in 1909, the Pontifical Biblical Commission, the PBC.
Okay, official body.
Yes, tasked with biblical questions. They addressed Genesis 1 to 3, and crucially, they said interpreters had freedom where the Church Fathers themselves had differed.
Interesting.
And even more specifically, the PBC stated that the Hebrew word yom, the word for day, may be taken either in the literal sense for the natural day or in an applied sense for a certain space of time.
Wow, back in 1909.
Yes, and they explicitly said this question may be freely discussed.
Yeah.
That opened the door officially for non-literal readings of the days.
That is groundbreaking for the time. What came next?
Well, fast forward to the mid-20th century, Pope Pius XII, in his 1950 encyclical Humani Generis, he encouraged continued scientific investigation into origins. And he wisely pointed out that the literary forms in early Genesis are far more obscure and complex than our modern categories. He insisted Genesis is inspired, holding unique truth, definitely not on a par with pagan myths.
Yeah.
But he cleared the way for a deeper, more nuanced look at how it conveys that truth, its genre.
Got it. And more recently.
The Catechism of the Catholic Church, CCC itself, the official summary of doctrine. In paragraph 337, it explicitly describes the six-day structure as a symbolic presentation.
Symbolic, that's pretty clear language.
It is.
Yeah.
And it goes on to say that scientific studies on origins have splendidly enriched our knowledge and invite us to admire the Creator more. The Catechism presents this beautiful harmony. Genesis addresses the why, the ultimate meaning and purpose, while science explores the how and when. Different questions, different levels, both leading to truth.
Complementary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Pope John Paul II in 1996, speaking to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, powerfully reinforced this. Science describes and measures, theology draws out the final meaning. And he stated unequivocally, truth revealed in Scripture cannot contradict well-established scientific truth, because God is the author of both. If there seems to be a conflict, we need to look deeper at our understanding of one or both.
This whole historical arc from 1909 to John Paul II, it's remarkably consistent, isn't it? The church keeps saying, don't put God in a box based on our limited understanding of time or science.
It really is consistent, a testament to trusting both faith and reason.
It really is.
And, this brings us back to the wisdom of one of the all-time greats, St. Augustine.
Ah, Augustine, always relevant.
Always. Centuries ago, he warned Christians, basically, don't defend scientific views we know are wrong just because you think Scripture says so. Why? Because it makes the faith look foolish to people who know better scientifically.
Good point. Makes faith seem anti-intellectual.
Exactly. Augustine argued Scripture's main goal is salvation, redemption, not being a science textbook.
Mhm.
So his advice was, if science becomes well-established through reason and evidence, interpreters should be ready to adjust their understanding of Scripture accordingly.
Just the interpretation, not the core faith.
Precisely. Because, as Augustine understood, all truth comes from God, whether revealed directly or discovered through studying his creation. So true science can't ultimately contradict true faith if we understand both properly.
Which raises that big question you mentioned. How do we approach texts that seem to touch on both science and theology without messing up either one? Requires humility, doesn't it?
Humility, intellectual honesty, and deep discernment. Absolutely.
Okay, so with those non-negotiables and that magisterial guidance allowing for different approaches, let's get into the specifics. How have Catholics actually interpreted the days of Genesis 1? You mentioned three main views.
That's right. And seeing these different views isn't about picking a winner, but appreciating the richness of the text and the Church's commitment to that faith-reason harmony. They're all serious attempts to grapple with the mystery.
Okay, let's start with view number one, the literalist interpretation, or the ordinary weak view. Pretty straightforward name. What's the core argument?
The core argument is exactly what it sounds like. Genesis 1 describes 6 consecutive, literal, 24-hour days, just like our week.
Okay, and the reasoning behind that?
Proponents lean heavily on the Hebrew text. They argue the word yom for day usually means a normal solar day in the Old Testament, especially when it has a number like first day, second day.
Makes sense.
Plus, each day is marked by evening and morning. That phrase strongly suggests a literal day cycle. They'd also say, look, God is omnipotent. He could create instantly, so why not in 6 24-hour periods? It's certainly not impossible for him. And some connect this to the genealogies later in Genesis, which, if read straightforwardly, seem to imply a relatively young Earth, maybe thousands of years old. It prioritizes the most immediate reading of the words.
But this view bumps up against modern science quite a bit, right? Like that classic issue, light on day 1, but the sun only shows up on day 4. How do literalists handle that?
Yeah, that's a very common challenge. Groups like Catholic Answers, who present this as a permissible view, offer explanations. They might say Genesis doesn't claim light itself was created on day 4, but that the light bearers, sun, moon, stars, were made or assigned their roles then.
So God made a different kind of light first.
Potentially. A primordial diffuse light, maybe, allowing for day-night cycles even before the sun was designated as the main source. They readily admit these explanations aren't scientifically verifiable today.
Okay.
But they stress, again, that Genesis's main purpose is theological meaning, not scientific detail. And they point back to that 1909 PBC decision saying, interpreting Yom as a natural day is allowed for Catholics.
So, bottom line from the Church's perspective, this view isn't condemned. Catholics can believe God created in 6 literal 24-hour days as long as they hold the core doctrines.
Correct. It's permitted. However,
The however is that the Catechism calling the days symbolic, CCC 337, strongly suggests a strict literal reading isn't required, and frankly, it's not the dominant view among Catholic scholars today.
right.
And invoking St. Augustine again, many theologians caution against tying faith rigidly to a specific timeline that seems contradicted by overwhelming scientific evidence for an ancient universe. It's about asking, what was the purpose of the text? Was it aiming for scientific precision? Probably not.
Okay, that makes sense. Permitted, but maybe not the easiest fit with science. Let's move to the second view, one you said has gained a lot more traction, the symbolic or framework interpretation. What's the idea here?
The core idea here is that Genesis 1 is primarily a brilliant literary and theological framework. It's a highly organized poetic structure, not a strict historical or chronological diary of creation week. So focusing on the artistry and the message over a literal sequence.
Exactly. Proponents dig into the Hebrew language nuances and ancient literary styles. They note Yom can mean day, yes, but also an indefinite period, an epoch, or just time.
Flexible word.
Very. And then number 7, hugely symbolic in the ancient world and the Bible for completeness, perfection, covenant. So the 6-day structure, ending with the Sabbath rest, is seen as a symbolic pattern to teach truths about God's order, creation's goodness, the hierarchy, not a stopwatch timeline.
Less about chronology, more about theology using a structure.
Precisely. And remember that structural parallel we discussed?
The forming and filling. Days 1 through 3 set up realms, 4 to 6 fill them.
Exactly. That elegant pattern plus the evening and morning refrain, the Sabbath command, These are seen as serving liturgical, theological purposes. They draw us into worship, into contemplating God's order, the rhythm of life he established, rather than giving a scientific sequence.
And didn't you say some early church fathers supported this kind of reading?
Yes, big names like Origen and St. Augustine himself. They saw that issue with light and plants before the sun, day 4, and argued, based on the text itself, that it couldn't be talking about sequential 24-hour days. That provides powerful early support for a non-literal view, focused on God's power and wisdom, not physics.
Wow. So this view seems to align really well with the Catechism calling it symbolic, and Pius XII talking about complex literary forms.
It aligns beautifully. It enjoys very strong support in contemporary Catholic scholarship for that reason. It effectively protects the core theological message, God the Creator, creation's goodness, human dignity, while comfortably accommodating scientific insights about the universe's age and natural history.
So it allows faith and science to coexist more easily.
Much more easily, yes. It avoids forcing the Bible into a scientific straitjacket it wasn't designed for. Now, proponents still need to affirm the historicity of core events, like the creation of the first humans and original sin.
Right. The framework is symbolic, but the truths it conveys are real.
Exactly. The theological realities are absolutely real, even if the narrative structure used to convey them is understood symbolically.
Okay, that's very clear. Now the third perspective, theistic evolution, or sometimes called concordist. This one tries to actively harmonize Genesis with modern science, right?
That's the key word, harmonize. It's a sophisticated approach that fully accepts the scientific picture, Big Bang billions of years ago, gradual evolution of life, including the human body.
Okay.
But, and this is the crucial, but it does so while firmly affirming that God is the ultimate cause, the sustainer, and the guide behind all these processes.
So God uses evolution as his tool.
Essentially, yes. Evolution is seen as the means by which God brought about the diversity and complexity of life. In this view, the days of Genesis are again seen as symbolic periods, or a poetic structure. The narrative's role is to reveal God's order, his goodness, his deliberate action, his providence, but not the specific scientific mechanisms.
Where does this view find support in church teaching?
It draws significantly from statements like John Paul II's 1996 address, where he said evolution is more than a hypothesis, and that science and theology complement each other. Theistic evolutionists emphasize Genesis isn't explaining how scientifically, but revealing who is behind it all and why. For them, God's grandeur is seen not just in instantaneous acts, but in the vast, elegant, intricate processes he designed and guides. Evolution itself becomes a testament to God's intelligence and patient creativity.
But, and this is vital, Catholics holding this view still accept all the core doctrines. They aren't ditching fundamental beliefs.
Absolutely not. That's essential. They firmly hold. God created ex nihilo. Divine providence sustains everything. Humans are uniquely made in God's image with a spiritual soul directly created by God. And there was a historical fall into sin. No compromise on those.
So the evolution part applies more to the biological development, the how.
Primarily to the development of the physical body, yes. They argue evolutionary processes can be the very way God providentially worked. And they definitely heed Augustine's warning about not making faith look foolish by denying established science. God's creative act, for them, is ongoing, unfolding through the laws he established.
How does the church officially view theistic evolution? Permitted?
Yes, permitted, but with very clear boundaries.
Ah, the boundaries. What are they?
Pope Pius XII, back in Humani Generis 1950, allowed research into the human body evolving, but he insisted on two non-negotiables. First, the spiritual soul is immediately created by God for each person it doesn't evolve.
Okay, soul is separate.
Yes. And second, that all people descend from a single first pair, Adam and Eve. This is key for preserving the doctrine of original sin, which affects all humanity through that common ancestry.
Got it. Soul directly from God, common first parents.
Exactly. The Catechism reinforces the unique status of the human soul and humanity's place at the pinnacle. So theistic evolution is acceptable as long as those theological truths are safeguarded. It differs from the framework view mainly in how actively it tries to relate Genesis to specific scientific theories, seeing God's hand in the evolutionary process itself.
So three distinct but permissible views within Catholicism. That's really clarifying.
It shows the breadth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All trying to reconcile revelation and reason, highlighting how faith and science, understood properly, can both point to the splendor of God's creation.
Absolutely. Okay, let's zoom back into day 6, that absolute peak moment, the creation of humanity. Let us make human beings in our image after our likeness. We touch on this, but let's unpack it more. What does in his image and likeness truly signify about us?
It's perhaps the most fundamental statement about human identity in the entire Bible. It does not mean God looks like us physically. Rather, it means he shares with us core spiritual qualities reflecting his own nature. Things like reason, the ability to know truth, to understand, free will, the capacity to choose, especially choose good, to love.
Okay, reason, free will.
Also, an inherent creativity. We make things, we innovate, we shape our world, reflecting God, the ultimate creator. And crucially, the capacity to love, to form relationships, ultimately to know and be in communion with God himself.
So we're meant to mirror his goodness.
Exactly. We're called to reflect his goodness, his truth, his beauty in how we live, how we choose, how we relate. We're partners, in a sense, in his ongoing work. And the text immediately says, male and female, he created them, highlighting complementarity, shared dignity, and that amazing gift of co-creating new life.
And this bestows that profound inherent dignity on every single person, right? From conception onwards. It's not earned.
Absolutely unearned, inherent, and universal. It's a gift stamped onto our very being by God's love.
And flowing directly from that dignity comes the command. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion. Now, dominion can sound harsh today. How should we understand that?
That's a critical point. It's absolutely crucial to understand that dominion here does not mean ruthless exploitation or a license to dominate and destroy.
Okay, so what does it mean?
Within Catholic teaching, overwhelmingly, it means stewardship, responsible guardianship. We are entrusted with the care of God's magnificent creation, called to be its loving caretakers, not its tyrants.
Stewardship, like managing something precious for its owner.
Precisely. Pope Francis, especially in Laudato Si', speaks powerfully about this. He says our work itself is meant to be a continuation of God's creative action.
Wow, work as co-creation.
Yes, work gives us dignity, he says. It's our vocation. But this implies a huge responsibility not just for the environment, but for each other. It means ensuring just conditions for all workers, rejecting every form of modern slavery and exploitation.
Because exploiting someone's labor degrades their God-given dignity.
Exactly. You're degrading the very image of God in that person. So, how we treat creation and how we treat fellow humans, especially the vulnerable, are deeply interconnected. Both reflect how seriously we take our role as stewards of God's gifts, including the gift of each other. It's a profound ethical call.
That's incredibly powerful and practical. It means every single person I meet, no matter who they are, bears God's image and deserves absolute respect. Things like racism, bullying, disrespect, they aren't just social issues, they're sins against the Creator.
Fundamentally, yes. It calls us to treat ourselves with dignity and to treat everyone else with that same unwavering respect and love, recognizing the divine spark.
Okay, let's bring it home. We've looked at the story, the doctrines, the interpretations, our unique place. How do we live this today? Let's revisit day 7, God's rest. You said it wasn't about being tired, but about completion.
Right. The work was finished, perfect, good. It established a divine rhythm.
And you hinted earlier this rest points to something even bigger for Christians, beyond just a day off.
Oh, absolutely. Catholic tradition sees a deep, beautiful link between God's seventh-day rest and Christ's rest in the tomb on Holy Saturday.
Ah, okay. How so?
Just as God's work of creation was completed, Christ's work of redemption, his sacrifice on the cross, was completed. His rest in the tomb marks the end of the old order.
Okay.
And then, on the 8th day, Easter Sunday, the first day of the new week, Christ rises. He inaugurates the new creation, a spiritual recreation, even more glorious than the first.
The new creation.
Yes, and that's why Sunday, the Lord's Day, becomes the primary day of Christian worship. When we gather for Mass, we're entering into God's new rest, the eternal Sabbath foreshadowed, renewing ourselves as his new creation through Christ and the sacraments. It's participating in that ongoing work of renewal.
That adds a whole new layer to why Sunday Mass is so central.
Wow.
Okay, so with all this incredible richness, the story, the theology, our role, the meaning of rest, what are the practical takeaways for you, the listener, right now? How do we live Genesis 1?
Let's boil it down.
Yes. First, cultivate wonder and gratitude. This amazing world isn't just random stuff. It's a gift, crafted with love and purpose. So actually take time this week, pause, marvel at a sunset, really look at a flower, listen to the rhythm of the sea, gaze at the stars, let it sink in, and just say thank you to God for his artistry. That simple act, that noticing, it's often the start of real prayer.
That's fundamental, awakening awe.
Second, care for creation. Because God called it very good, we're its guardians. This isn't optional, it's our job. So practical things. Recycle diligently. Try to reduce waste, conserve water, be kind to animals. Remember, Pope Francis says abusing the earth is a sin against the Creator. We need to take that seriously.
Our role as stewards in action.
Third, value yourself and others. We keep coming back to this because it's huge. Every person bears God's image, full stop. So actively reject racism, stop bullying, don't gossip, avoid disrespect, fight exploitation. These aren't just bad manners, they offend God. Treat yourself with respect and treat every single person you meet with that same profound dignity and love. See the divine spark.
Living out the Imago Dei.
Fourth, balance work and rest. God himself showed us the pattern. Work is good, it's part of our calling, but we also need rest. Find that healthy rhythm. Study, service, job, yes, but also prayer, family, rejuvenation. And make Sunday special. Not just a day for chores, but time set apart for worship, for family, for true recreation of body and soul. Let God refresh you.
Essential for spiritual health.
And finally, maybe most importantly, seek God in Christ. Genesis points forward. Jesus is the fulfillment. He's the Word through whom all things were made, and in him we become new creations. So stay close to him. How? Through the sacraments, Eucharist, reconciliation, and through prayer, real conversation with God. These things keep you rooted in his life, turning that initial wonder into deep, lasting worship and relationship.
Beautifully summarized. If we connect all that, Genesis 1 invites us on a journey from wonder at creation to worship of the Creator. It reveals a universe that's personal, purposeful, good. It tells us our ultimate destiny is communion with this loving God. It gives meaning to absolutely everything.
What an incredible journey through just one chapter. We've seen how Genesis 1, whether read as literal days, a symbolic framework, or through the lens of theistic evolution, proclaims these profound, unchanging truths about God, us, and the world.
It really does. And the core agreement across all those Catholic views is powerful. God freely created everything ex nihilo. He saw it was good, he ordered it wisely, and he made us humans in his image to share his love and care for his creation. The real point isn't settling every scientific question,
Right.
but letting this inspired text draw us into a deeper relationship with the God who creates, sustains, and redeems all things. That's the transformation it seeks.
So as we wrap up this first deep dive, here's a final thought for you, listener, to chew on this week. What specific aspect of creation, maybe something you see every day, will you intentionally try to see differently this week? Knowing it's not just nature, but a profound invitation from the Creator himself, a living hymn of thanksgiving, just waiting for you to join in with your own gratitude.
A wonderful channel.
And believe it or not, we've only just scratched the surface of Genesis. Definitely join us next week on the deep dive. We'll turn the page to Genesis chapter 2 and unpack its rich, fascinating tapestry of meaning, diving deeper into humanity's early story, the Garden of Eden, and God's much more intimate interaction with his beloved creation. You won't want to miss it.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, take
Hey.
care. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.